What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at my settings in Vanguard to help you guys out and some recommendations for you guys, because this year there's a lot more settings than previous Call of Duties, or you may not even be aware to change some of these settings, so hopefully it does help you out and improve your gameplay. But guys, without further ado, be sure to leave a like on the video, hit that subscribe button to bell for notifications. You can also click that join button down below to become a channel member to gain access to exclusive member badges and emotes, and it also does help support me. But guys, without further ado, let's hop right in. Let's start things off here with the controller settings. We have the horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity. Now mine, I play personally on 6v6, but this is all going to come down to personal preference and how you guys like to play. So you got to just go into games. You can hop into a private match, or you can hop into a normal match and just play around with it and see what sensitivity feels right to you. I know some people like to play a little bit slower, some people like to play a little bit quicker, but then we have ground vehicle, air vehicle, and ADS sensitivity multiplier. I left both the ground and air vehicles alone, but for the ADS, I went down to 0.8, so that way when my horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity stays at 6, but when I aim in, it's reduced, so I can get that precision aiming at distance. Now, this is another one you're gonna have to play with. Now, 6.6.8 might not be the one for you. You might have different sensitivities. I'm just showing you mine. And then we have a custom sensitivity per zoom. If you do turn this on, you can adjust your sensitivity multipliers per zoom level. You could change the multiplier for every one of these. But for now, I just have that off, running a 6.6.8, and it seems to be working for me. Another thing here under the controller tab is aim, response, curve type. I just go with the standard because that's what I'm used to out of every other Call of Duty, but there's also linear and dynamic here that you could choose from. Linear, aim stick maps directly to aim rate, and dynamic, reverse S-curve mapping for fine aim rate control. I know a lot of pro players do use the dynamic, so if you wanted to give that a try, it may be a little weird at first, but if you get used to it, you might like the dynamic more. For me, I just stick with the standard. Next up, we have controller vibration. This one is a must turn off. Controller vibration is good for like campaigns and stuff to feel more immersed into a game, but for multiplayer games where you're trying to be competitive and be top on the team, you want to turn this off, because feeling the vibrations, especially with all the bombs and explosions going off in Vanguard, you're going to want to turn this off just to make sure you have at the best competitive rate that you can possibly be at. And then for weapon fire threshold, I actually turn this one off, so the fire button will react to the same regardless of the weapon used. This one, along with the controller vibration, is another immersion aspect or setting to the game. If you turn it off, all weapons will act the same. If you leave it on, the fire button or trigger will simulate a gun's trigger with different thresholds to fire different weapons. So if you're shooting a sniper as compared to an SMG, the amount of which you have to pull in the trigger would be different. But if you turn it off, they're all the same. And that's a lot better for a competitive standpoint. If they're all the same, you can build up that consistency and muscle memory of how to shoot the weapon. Next up here, we have the L2 and R2 button minimum input dead zone. Now this says adjust how much the L2 button must be pressed to be considered. So I believe the default is like 10 to 12. If you turn these down, I have it on 4.4 right now for both the L2 and R2. That means I'm not sure exactly the units of like what 4 actually means, but the lower the number, the less you have to pull in the triggers or the button to actually be able to use it. I would only have to pull the L2 and R2 buttons in a little bit to trigger the action of the button. These two are also, these input dead zones are going to be dependent on how you like to play. You might like to pull the trigger in a little bit more, you might want to put it in a little bit less, but those are the two that you can play around with, but these are what I'm using here. Next up, we have the left and right stick minimum input dead zone. This one is 100% going to come down to your controller. So if you've ever been experienced playing a game where you're not touching the controller at all and your guy starts walking or he starts spinning a little bit, this is where your input dead zone needs to be changed a little bit. So what you want to do is turn it down as low as you can, hop into a private match, don't touch your controller. If your guy starts walking or spinning in a certain direction, you want to turn the minimum input dead zone up. So if your guy starts walking, you're going to turn your left stick minimum input dead zone up by 1. Go back to the game, see if he's still walking. If he is, turn it up by 1 and just go 1 by 1 until your guy stops walking. And the same for right stick minimum input dead zone. If your guy is spinning, turn it up by 1. Go back to the game. If he's still spinning, turn it up by 1. Now it's a fine line between each number. It goes up by a whole number. So if you can see, it goes from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, on and on. So if your guy is walking or spinning on 5, you want to push it up to 6 where he doesn't spin or walk. And that is the perfect spot for you. Now these numbers don't have to match up. If you want to have it, if your controller works at 4.6, that's fine. Or if it works on 7.6, that's fine. They don't have to match up here. Next up, heading over to the gameplay tab. I think the major one here on this tab is under action behavior, which is actually the slide behavior. I've changed it to tap. This is going to help you in all sorts of situations and during your gameplay. If you have it on hold, that means as you're running, you have to hold down your slide button in order to slide, whereas if you change it to tap, you don't have to hold it in. You can just quickly tap it and you're going to slide from a sprint. The second one here under action behavior is interact/reload behavior. I have this to prioritize reload. So if my guy doesn't have to reload, I can tap the button to interact with something, whereas if he has to reload and there's an interaction of both available at the same time, it'll prioritize tap for reload and hold for interact. Here we are on graphics. Field of view, I have mine personally set to 95. This is again personal preference of how you want to do it. Just to let you guys know that this is an option here in Vanguard. I believe on all platforms. I'm personally playing on the PS5. I have mine set to 95 here along with independent. So here under the ADS field of view, you have two different options, independent and affected. Independent, aiming down sight zooms the field of view to its usual value. So therefore, I could turn the field of view up to 120, and when I aim in, it's still going to have that usual default value when I aim in. So this helps for more of a long-range type of player, as compared to affected, where if you're a run-and-gun type player, if you have your ADS set to 120, it'll still zoom in when you ADS, but it won't zoom in as much. So you can still see most of your surroundings as you're aimed in. So it's just going to come down to personal preference of which one you like better. For me, it's independent. Then we have camera movement. You guys want to turn this down to at least 50%. So if there's explosions or there's bombs going off, your camera might shake a lot and you're going to get kind of disoriented and possibly not know what's going on. This can also help reduce motion sickness if that is something you're worried about, but turning it down to at least 50% is going to give you your best competitive possibilities. World motion blur, weapon motion blur, and depth of field, turn these off. Just immediately turn them off. It's good for immersion like campaigns and whatnot, but for a competitive standpoint, you don't want these on. Next up, fidelity effects. I tried turning this on, and it does increase the sharpness of your game. Every time I turn the game on, it turns it back off, so I don't think it's really worth turning it on every single time. Now, I'm sure this is a bug, and they will fix it out, but I highly recommend you guys giving this a try if you're having issues seeing things in the game, or if you just want the game to look a little bit crisper. Try turning on fidelity effects and see what happens, and see if it's for you. Then we have audio. Under the audio tab, I really wish there was an in-game sound and a menu sound category, but there's not. There's just a game sound overall. So I recommend turning down the music volume, which does suck because the music in this game is really good. They did an amazing job with it. But when you're in a game or you're playing like S&D and you're trying to get those 1v1 kills or 1v2 kills, you want that music turned down or you're not going to be able to hear anything. You also have hit marker sound effects, similar to Modern Warfare, where you can change the sound of them. You can have none. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Classic or Vanguard. I have it set to Vanguard here myself. And then under voice chat down here, it is default for no effect, but sometimes I know it might change or something. So make sure under voice chat effect, you have no effect on here, or people in game chat may sound a little weird or robotic. So just to know, that's there. Under interface, highly recommend changing the minimap shape from round to square if it's not already done so, just because the square minimap, it's going to be able to show you more on the map. Minimap rotation, I would recommend having this on. It helps out just filling out the map a little bit better, and you don't have to really think about where you're at. It's always going to rotate to which way you're pointing. And then crosshair bobbing, I do have this on, but I kind of recommend turning it off because it's not really necessary in the game. There's no real effect on it. So turning it off might help out for you. But guys, overall, that is my settings and some recommendations for you guys here in Vanguard. Hopefully it did help, because I know there's a lot of settings and a lot of new settings that you may not be used to in previous Call of Duty, so hopefully it does help you in your gameplay. Now, after a couple of days of Vanguard being out, let me know what you guys are thinking of the game. Personally, multiplayer, huge win. Zombies, huge L. Hopefully they fixed it in Season 1, but let me know what you guys think. If you are enjoying the videos, be sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, turn off notifications, tell your friends, tell your family, notify me on iPro major social medias as Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. All at iPro follow me at LifeByDash, both on YouTube and Instagram for my lifestyle vlog type videos. I'll see you guys next time.